Welcome back to the Universe of God. We are starting video 10 of Angels of Light, and we have been coming from the primordial elements. But in the last couple videos, I've been sharing what was expressed through an article called The Holy Angels on the 9 Orders of Angels. And we've gone through the first 2 sections, and we've seen that these 9 orders of angels so far are grouped in threes, which really reflects the Holy Trinity, of this order. This order was established and created through the Holy Trinity. And that's why it continues to reflect that back to us, this kind of 360-degree holistic circle of life, so to speak, where it's completed in this 3. And so that's important in terms of connecting these angels of light to their source, because again, we have this done in hierarchies of three groups for these 9 orders of angels, and that again reflects to us the Godhead. So I feel like we're on the right track with this information, and that's why again I saved it and I held on to it, because I felt like there was really truth in this. And one of the things I wanted to share is when we're discussing the hierarchy, sometimes our minds go to this class-oriented hierarchy that we see in our world. And I don't see it that way in God's kingdom. I see this hierarchy as being, this group is assigned this level of responsibility because they were created to be able to handle this level of responsibility. And this group was created for that level of responsibility. And this group for this area of responsibility, because they were created to manage these areas of responsibility. And we all should be able to identify that, because we are all created to manage certain responsibilities here. I don't believe I'm created to run Amazon. I don't believe God has created me to manage that responsibility. And I think if I were to do it, I would find out very quickly that I'm operating in an area of weakness for me, something that I wasn't created to do. God could use me better in areas where He has created me to thrive. And so, I really appreciate how these are in groups of 3, because again, it reflects the truth in the Godhead. But we're in the middle pillar, right? It's called the middle hierarchy. And again, not class oriented. Okay, it's not about one being better than the other. It's about knowing your place and staying in your lane and doing, operating in your strengths instead of trying to focus, operate in your weaknesses. There's nothing wrong with strengthening weaknesses, but you got to know your boundaries. Maybe it's a weakness because you weren't created, with that to be a strength for you, because it doesn't match what God made you to do, what you're here for. So it's not a strength for you, Just understanding that, staying in your lane. That's how we can understand these orders of angels and this hierarchy we're talking about in terms of, what level they operate out of in responsibility. And we see that reflected on the earth and, our hierarchies. But it's been severely perverted in many ways, where it's about, I'm better than you. They now they call the rich people, the wealthy people of this world, the elites. They're in a whole different class because they have more money. Yeah, they're operating on a whole different level because they are wealthy. This is true, but it doesn't mean that they're better than us. It just means that they are equipped to handle a certain level of responsibility that others are not. In many cases, they are qualified to handle the wealth where others are not qualified. And that, of course, is not for everybody, because we live in a fallen world. So it doesn't mean, people could have money and not be able to really manage it. They were born into wealth, but it doesn't mean that they were called, that they have the ability to handle that kind of wealth and they squander it or whatever. And again, those are really generic explanations. But sometimes, you just got to make it simple. And I love a simple life. So I love when things can be simple, and I enjoy the complexities of the simple sometimes. So anyhow, the powers. The powers are so called powers because they have power over the devil in order to restrain the power of the demons and to repulse the temptations brought upon people by these demonic forces and entities, and to prevent these demons from harming anyone to the degree that they would wish. So these powers create new boundaries. Boundaries are everywhere, visible, invisible. These powers, operate at a level where they've created boundaries between the lower entities or the demonic realm. So they can't just do what they want. Yeah, they have free will. We all have free will. And even though we have free will, we can't just do whatever we want. And when we try, some things we get away with and most things we don't, because truly it all comes full circle. But with that being said, they have power to make sure that the devil does not do whatever he wants. And he does not get access to the upper hierarchy. That he doesn't get access to the highest heavens. We're told biblically that we have 3 heavens, right? And the second heaven is, where the ether is, the planets and all of these things. And then there's a higher heaven that we supposedly can't see, that is just covered in light, not darkness. And we can't even see it. And it's where God lives. It's his realm. And these demons don't have access to that realm. They are blocked from that realm. They don't have access any longer. The devil doesn't have access to these higher realms, basically, and even though he was a cherubim, he's fallen, as well. And these powers restrain some of his, power. And they restrain demons from being able to just do whatever they want and torment us, which is great news for us because we live and interact with these visible and invisible worlds, so to speak. And we need some protection and we need some covering, so that what is evil and negative and dark does not, just have its way with God's children. So that's good news for us. It says that the power strengthened the good aesthetics in spiritual struggles and labors, protecting them so that they may not be deprived of the spiritual kingdom. That's also good news. That we're protected so that we are not deprived of God's spiritual kingdom. They help those wrestling with passions and vices to cast out evil thoughts and slanders of the enemy and to conquer the devil. And even though we know that Christ helps us to overcome and to resist temptation, and turn our back on evil, again, we take nothing away from the Godhead. We take nothing away from Christ, who's the way to all this true light and information and covering. But we understand that a king, has a kingdom, and in that kingdom are, counselors and armies and, citizens, and it's all these things. And so it would be like God, it would be like Christ, to have angelic hosts covering these various territories. Okay. So let's move on to the lowest hierarchy. And these 3 orders in the lower hierarchy are called the principalities, the archangels, and the angels. And real quick, the scripture says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual principalities, against spiritual wickedness in heavenly places. And this is important to understand. The Bible references some of these angelic orders, okay? And this one in particular is called principalities. They have an interesting role. They are named thus because they have command over the lower angels, directing them to the fulfillment of divine orders, the management of the universe, and the keeping of all the kingdoms and princedoms of lands and all peoples, races, and nations is also entrusted to these principalities. For each kingdom, race, and people have for themselves a special deeper and even a manager from the heavenly order called the principalities for all their country. Wow. So these principalities have territory. They have territory in the earth. And managing what's going on in countries. Further, the service of this angelic order consists in teaching the people to requite each person in authority according to his calling. Finally, the angels of this order raise worthy people to various honorable offices and direct them so that they take power not for the sake of their own gain and benefit, nor for the sake of love and honor and vain renown, but for the sake of honor from God and for the sake of spreading and augmenting of His glory, His holy glory, and for the sake of the benefit of their neighbors, as serving the general needs of all their subordinates. So we see God's holy order here again in this group of angels. They have special jobs to do. You know, God says, you know, He raises kings up and kingdoms up and He takes them down. Okay. And we see here principalities are on assignment to see that this is done and how it's done righteously. Okay. So let's go to the archangels. Hey, archangels. These archangels are called the great heralds of good news, announcing the great and most glorious. Their service consists in revealing prophecies, knowledge, and understanding of God's will, which they receive from the higher orders of angels and announce to the lower order. The angels, and through them to men, they reveal these prophecies from the higher orders of angels and announce them to the lower orders of angels. So basically this information comes through them to men. And we see this Gabriel, an archangel, who delivered this message. Apparently it was Gabriel delivered this angel to Mary, that she would bear a son, you know, the Son of God. And all throughout the Bible, we have other angels being mentioned, like Michael, the archangel. So it says that archangels strengthen people in the holy faith, enlightening their mind with the light of knowledge of the holy gospel and revealing the mysteries of devout faith. So then we get down to the angels, okay? The angels are the lowest of all the orders in the heavenly hierarchy and the closest to man. Wow. So these are the ones that are closest to humankind. They announce the lesser mysteries and intentions of God and teach people to live virtuously and righteously before God. They are appointed to guard each of us who believe. They sustain virtuous people from falling and never leave us though we have sinned, but are always ready to help us if only we ourselves want it. Wow. You know, we have angels who do these things on all these levels. And so, you know, we talked about earlier the seraphim and the cherubim and how knowledge of God comes through them. And, you know, information of God comes through them, and it falls from the top to the bottom, from the heavens to the earth, and it falls on us like the morning dew. So it comes through these orders of angels and is delivered to us in various ways. And these angels, you know, just a basic word angel, are the ones who interact with us the most. You know, being closest to us. Even I think of guardian angels, and I think of the show Touched by an Angel. And if you've never seen it, I highly recommend it, of course, because I just love that show. But I think it's a very relatable and elementary way, and an accurate way to portray this lower order of angels. And again, when I say lower, I don't mean lesser in terms of less valuable. I mean lower in terms of, you know, their order of business, right? You don't see everybody working with the homeless and the drug addict, you know, and the people who have suffered the most. You don't see everybody doing that. There are certain people you see that are so called to it that they have to help. They have to do something. They are called to it. God created them to manage that area in life, to help those people. And it's not because none of us should be helping. We all have a part to play. But the part we play expresses itself differently. You know, you see people opening up organizations and finding ways to bless these people because they're called to it. But this finishes out this portion, and we're going to come back in video 11 with more on angels in another episode. Thanks for joining. God bless.